Yeah.
So Greg, when we did our CI test, we worked under the Triple F program, and we learnt the 5 principles, which was no slack line, stroke, straight line path, acceleration, and pause. I actually teach 6 principles here. I think one of the most important ones is soft hands. I mean, I used to train a lot of horses, and it's in the hands. If you look at golfers, you look at tennis players, you look at billiard players, darts, it's all having soft hands. And I think this is one of the things we don't talk enough about. So what I'd like to do is go through these with all the principles that Greg is using to get that nice soft casting, to understand how it works using all of those principles. One of the first principles in this is no slack. And we're always taught no slack when you're picking up here. But I notice a lot of people when they're casting are ending up with a lot of slack in here. Yes. But you'd like to talk about too, that in your cast you've got this nice beautiful belly, there's no slack in there, which is actually giving us a constant tension. Correct. You could take us through the principles of that.
Okay, good. The no slack is really essential for easy casting and efficient casting. Now, keeping the tension on the line without slack is an excellent and easy way to cast. And that simply means that even if I'm doing a large open loop, I've still got a degree of tension, okay? But certainly when I want tight loops, I get tight loops, no slack. Now, if I can't get the line back with enough energy, and/or I haven't cast a pretty good loop in a efficient straight line, when I come forward, I'm going to shot the rod tip, I'll get a tailing loop or very poor acceleration, and I won't get the line to lay out. So with my style of casting, it is dead easy to cast a long line simply by putting enough energy in and understanding loops to get that line to go out, and then to cast the whole fly line. So when I start moving that rod tip forward, my fly is starting to move forward. I don't want the line to still be going back with maybe 10 or 15 feet to go when I'm coming forward.
So we talked about slack line.
Yep.
The next one is the straight line path. So we taught there to keep the rod tip in the straight line at all times, to keep the 180 whichever way you're going.
Yes.
But I noticed with yours again that's very critical in what you're doing.
Absolutely. So are you rolling? Good, okay. Now 180 is really important, in other words a straight line. So my arc, the angle at which the rod is at the back cast and the front cast, is what's called the arc. The part in the middle is essential for good fly casting, more so for getting a little bit of distance and getting a bit of line out and being in really good control. So the idea is we're talking about line path and arc. So this arc bit is the straight line. So when I'm down on the ground there, I'm joining the dots. So my fly on the ground, where my rod will be when I get to halfway through the casting stroke, approximately where the rod tip will be, and I join those dots up. So if I'm picking up off the ground, my cast goes up there in a really good loop. If I'm picking up off the front, I pick up in a straight line, and I get really good, a thick straight line path. Means that when I start moving the rod tip, I've got a higher degree of fly movement in the direction I want to go. So if I've got an uncontrollable big loop, I might move the rod tip 30 centimetres, but I might move the fly 1 centimetre. But if I've got a fairly straight line with a pretty good loop going back, it's going to open out nicely. When I move the rod tip, maybe 30 centimetres, I might get 28 centimetres of movement in the fly. So I start my casting stroke back here. So I'm not going to load the rod here, I'm loading the rod right here. So I really can't mess the cast up unless I get the plane incredibly wrong.
So with your big distance cast, you were teaching that you actually, because gravity is taking over the back, you
Yes.
go too higher?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And would you like me to show you that? Cast. This is a 105-foot fly line. This is an incredibly soft rod. This is what you would call a trout rod. So, good travel. This is the travel part. This is the travel part. That's the travel part. And that's a 105-foot line, and that's the back end. Now the travel is essential because the rod is soft. I've got bigger arcs. In other words, I don't finish the rod here, I finish the rod here. So it gives me a straight line travel of the fly line, which gives me the efficiency I need to eat.
So Greg, next principle is acceleration. So we talked before, we're applying a force, which is changing the direction. And force is mass times acceleration, so we've got a lot of line out, so that's the mass. So your acceleration is very smooth. So if you explain how you're actually providing your acceleration.
Acceleration is something that comes with a fair bit of control. The problem is when we start casting, we get a bit of line out, it starts getting out of control, starts falling towards the ground because sometimes we don't quite understand this plane bit well. We put too much energy in the end of the cast, forces the line down on the grass. So what do we do to keep it off the grass? Everyone speeds up. Unfortunately, that's very detrimental to fly casting. For most people, it's hard to have that control to simply pick up slowly and cast it up in the air. As you can see, I've got 40 feet out there. And if I do it slowly, I can shoot out. I'm probably at 70 feet now. Now, it's in this control is where you get efficiency. I'm using the rod as a lever. The more I punch into the rod, the more it bends, so that lever is shortened. So when I move my finger, the amount of movement down near the base compared to the top moves dramatically faster than the base. There's more speed at the tip. That's where I get line speed. That's how I get line control, because I'm not bending the rod deeply. When you bend the rod deeply, the rod has to unbend. And that's where Tim, no doubt, will show you the flip-flopping type of cast, which works well. You get good distance out of it, but for a fishing cast, may not be the greatest. But definitely in this cast, go slow, use the whole length of the rod as a lever. There. There, 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 and that's, remembering that's a 105-foot fly line, and there's the backing. So with the more efficiency you use, the more you can control yourself from punching wildly and ripping on the line in the haul. You can cast further by controlling yourself. Bending the rod, and the rod never gives back to you what you put into it. So there's an old saying of load the rod. Now, if anyone new to fly casting can completely understand what that means, I'd be amazed. It's a very tricky one, and I never tell someone to load the rod, because they get this idea the more bend they put in the rod, the better the cast will be. But that's not true. You don't bend the rod. If you can keep yourself calm and understand and get to the point of understanding and discipline, don't bend the rod. Use the rod as a big long leader and use that beautiful bend in the rod to form your loops. There's my loop, there's my loop, and there's my cast. Real easy.
I think the last one then, we've got 4 of the principles, and the last one is pause, which is obviously you've got a short cast, and we've got short pause at the beginning and the end of the cast. As yours, with big along the cast, you have to pause.
Yes.
But you're waiting a lot longer than a lot of people. It's not hitting the ground.
No, it's not hitting the ground. No, that's a great point, Tim. And now, this pause, I must have enough energy in my loop to go back, and I must have the plane right. So when I pick up now, I'm up there. And I've got plenty of time to change direction. Up there, up there. I've got plenty of time to change direction. I'm up there, I'm up there, and then I'm up there. I've got absolutely plenty of time. I'm in control. It's the plane. I pick up down there off the ground, I want to go up there. I'm casting to and fro. I've got a long line. I punch the line up there. By the time it opens up, it comes down, so my front cast goes up in the air, which is roughly a straight line. So if I was trying to cast horizontal, parallel to the ground, I'd have an awful trouble because my cast would be way more open than 180 degrees. It wouldn't be a straight line. And I'd end up with big open loops, which I would probably quite struggle with. But big open loops, given direction, are easy to cast. Now, there's a lot of talk about open loops. Open loops can go 100 foot, no problems at all. And I'll show you. You have to tell the open loop where to go. And if you get great efficiency, you can do exactly that. So here's my big open loop pickup. That was disgusting. And you pick that up there. Okay. Open, 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 and open. So I tell it where to go. This travel is essential for casting.